That Hat by Helen Hawkins of Como, 2226. Narrated by Janine Penfold. My home is a renovated Victorian house in Bendigo. The hallway serves two wings of the house and has high ceilings with gables, and there are large abstract artworks featuring bright reds, blues, yellows and greens adorning both walls from the front door to the back door. Near the front door, I hung that hat. An early Australian Army slouch hat, khaki fur with a puggree hatband still intact and a metallic badge securing the left side brim to the crown. I purchased that hat in the 1970s at a trash and treasure store one Saturday morning at the local markets, and it came in a box with other miscellaneous items and only cost $20. Behold, whilst unpacking it at home, I found it was someone's special memory box, also containing personal items and memorabilia. I was hooked. This box was gold in my hands. I had read The Fortunes of Richard Marnie, which is set in the 1850s and 1860s in the region of Bendigo, which was once the wealthiest city in the world due to the nearby discovery of gold. The disastrous and depraved industrialised warfare and carnage in Europe and the Middle East in World War I happened after the turn of the century. Many boys from families living in southwestern Victoria showed the courage and personal sacrifice needed to fight. They enlisted enthusiastically, going off to the war and proving their bravery on the battlefield. That hat is an Australian icon, a national symbol, and it was their headwear, their uniform, their identity, and universally recognised. Avidly, I began to explore the contents of that box. It contained important information. Personal diaries dated 1914 through to 1917. Receipts showing purchases of straw and other necessities for Brindley Station, obviously where the young man lived. There were photos capturing images of early 1900s Bendigo, fellow soldiers and mates. The diaries revealed harrowing accounts of the war's hideous cruelty and brutality, as well as descriptions of rural and city Bendigo at that time. Bendigo now is a highly urbanised modern regional city, a mix of old and new. There was also a list of 9 diggers' names inside the ripped lining of the hatband, and the owner's name, John Stuart Smith, stamped 1914, together with his service medals in a velvet satchel. The box had probably sat in a relative's barn for many years, before those relatives had passed away. Who exactly was John Smith's family? What exactly happened to him? That hat had witnessed those terrifying war years, the bugle calls, the thunder of cannons, the rat-a-tat-tat of machine gun fire, the smell of the gunpowder, the blood, the stench of death, the bitter taste of victory. Now, that hat was in my hallway, embodying the spirit of those brave young men in World War I. That hat watched on over my comings and goings and the many relatives, friends and family whom I invited to my home. John Smith. What of his family? After 1990, I married, had 2 children, and travelled extensively overseas and throughout Australia. Now, emu feathers from the top end are installed in that hat, which guarded my front door. The light horse cavalry regiments used those distinctive brown feathers in the left inside brims of their hats. Little did I know back then what I know now. By the 21st century, technological advances transformed society. Globalisation prevails and is in control of our future. AI calls the shots and battles for our minds and souls. In retirement, we have global internet access to local and global markets via our technologies, our computers and mobile phones. We trade online. We researched John's overseas service records, finding where John was buried and finding the journey of that hat during World War I, using the online resources from the Australian National Archives. John was an Anzac. He miraculously survived Gallipoli, the Western Front, and was one of many soldiers riding in the charge of the Light Horse Brigades at Beersheba, Gaza, in 1917. He and his beloved horse Brandy rode gallantly into the enemy lines that dawn morning, destroying many of the enemy in the fierce fighting which followed. And unfortunately, he was cut down during this terrifying encounter. This event turned the course of the war. His background was full of blanks, but he was a highly regarded horseman and decorated soldier. His kit and that hat were returned to Australia and home in country Western Victoria via a troop ship after the war, and his body, however, was buried in Turkey in an Australian war cemetery on the Gallipoli Peninsula. Imagine that. In the 2020s, Bill and I grew old and needed to downsize and move. We survived the global financial crisis, the COVID-19 epidemic, the cost of living crisis. But we needed more money to live on, and so we auctioned our house and our 20th century bric-a-brac. It's time to say goodbye to all that and only keep jewellery, money, shares and necessities and move into a retirement village. The story of that hat on the wall in the hall went like this. We took photos of it and the memorabilia and loaded them onto our eBay auction site. One Saturday morning, we reluctantly, with little expectation, began the auction. We watched online, amazed. Bidding was brisk. The price spiralled to $5,950. Quickly I pressed the sold button and began the money transaction with the buyer. "That's enough," I said to Bill. He mumbled something and left. That hat is gone now. Its story, though miraculously, will be continued by someone else. The new owner is Dr. Edward Smith, who has a light horse heritage collection and proudly exhibits a comprehensive display of memorabilia which is open daily to the public. He coincidentally lives in Western Victoria, and that hat means the world to him. And it will hopefully and surely inspire the next generation of young Australians, as it did me. Lest we forget. The end.